Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday. It is the 21st of November, 2024. Can you believe that this year is almost over, right? It's creeping away on me, I guess. So if you are in need of factoring, before we get into today's video, again, I recommend Operfi, the guys over at eCarrierCheck. You know, all of my recommended tools and services, you'll thank me later, right? These are things that, you know, I use, that I've been successful with, and I highly recommend it. At least check them out, right? It costs nothing to talk to them. So that being said, we'll go ahead and jump into today's video. If you need to reach me, if you have anything that you'd like to share, you have questions, freightmasterresources@gmail.com. Okay, so today's video, we're talking about freight broker transparency, right? A lot of things kind of going on with that, with administration changes and everything. So in a media call with newly minted TIA president and CEO Chris Burrows, joined by two member company leaders, we got an inside look at the biggest challenges and opportunities shaping freight brokerage in 2025. Right, from tackling a 400% surge in fraud to grappling with freshly released FMCSA proposals on broker transparency and adjusting to a new DOT secretary under the Trump administration. And basically, here's kind of what you need to know. All right. Before I do get into that, I've seen some other videos, you know. I've talked about this before. It's been a while, but the thumbnails, it's basically like fear mongering and this kind of a thing, you know, like, oh, 99% of brokerages are done, but then you don't find out till later. So it's basically like a bait and switch, you know, kind of a thumbnail, that kind of a thing, you know. All freight brokers are the devil and they're all cheating you. No. Are all of them cheating you? No. Are there some bad brokers out there? Absolutely. There's some good brokers out there as well, right? And if you're looking for a good broker, I'm humbly put myself out of this equation because out of fairness, I feel like I'm a good broker. But if you're a carrier watching this and you're looking for a good broker, I can absolutely point you in the right direction. I network with a lot of people, and there are some that I would absolutely avoid and some that I would absolutely recommend. So, all right. So the FMCSA's newly proposed rule aims to overhaul broker record-keeping requirements in response to years-long petitions from trucking groups like the OOIDA and SBTC. All right. While it addresses some concerns, the agency's approach has sparked some debate. Okay. Number one being electronic record keeping, right? Brokers must maintain transaction records in an electronic format. Number two, 48-hour record provisions. Brokers must provide transaction records within 48 hours of request, right? And again, you have to book the load, do the load, and then request it. So it's sort of like a after the fact kind of a thing. And honestly, if you accepted the load, right, and then later on you feel cheated or, you know, you should have done better, then why do you accept the load in the first place, right? It's sort of like, think about selling your truck, you know, or a car or something, you know, and the person bought it from you and they got it from you for half of what you wanted for it, you know, and later on, you know, initially, you know, they sort of sweet talked you into it or whatever happened. But then later on, you know, you're sitting at home and you're like, oh, they cheated me. Right. So, and it goes along with, you know, you flip that to purchasing something, you know, and you feel like you paid more. But the idea being sort of loosely the same, right? Number three, revised record contents. Transaction records must be updated, standards for transparency. And 4, requests on demand. Records must be available to carriers without undue delays. All right. Burroughs went on to highlight concerns about compliance costs and unattended consequences, operational strain, like managing thousands of carriers' requests could be overwhelming, right? I mean, think about that for all the brokers that are out there, and then all of the carriers that they work with, and they just all of a sudden converge and say, we want, we want a copy of the records. Well, as an example, if you have 18,000 carriers that you work with, it could potentially be a logistics nightmare, right? That's a lot to process. So, TIA members on the call highlighted concerns about compliance costs and unattended consequences, or unintended, like operational strain, right? Managing thousands of carrier requests could be overwhelming. Contractual conflicts, right? Many shipper contracts, especially federal ones, include non-disclosure agreements. Sharing transaction details could put brokers in breach of those contracts. Okay. I have seen those. I've dealt with those. Like I said, and I can only speak for myself personally, and some of those that other brokers that I absolutely would trust, and I know that they pay a fair rate, right? So market implications. Another member warned of a slippery slope, undermining free market principles, likening to it forcing retailers to disclose wholesale prices to customers, right? So yeah, I mean, are you going to go into Walmart or Bass Pro or something and say, well, you want $53.99 for this, but what was your cost on it? Well, if their cost was $15, well, I don't want to pay more than $20 now, right? You get it. Next up on this is fraud, right? $1 billion freight crisis, industry crisis. The FMCSA told us that there were 80,000 complaints in the National Consumer Compliant Database dealing with fraud or unlawful brokerage activities, and they've done very little to address them. That being said, going back to the fear-mongering videos that I've seen, the thumbnails and things, talking about, and this is coming from some other very popular industry-related channels, about, putting brokers in jail and, prosecuting them and, all of these types of things, and all the fraud and not getting paid. Yeah, there may be some delays in payment with some true US-based freight brokerages, but a majority of, and I wish I had the numbers, but a majority of the, illegal double brokering and things like this are coming from overseas, right? They're not going to chase somebody down in BFE, right, because you didn't get paid, right? And typically, and even I've even seen some, it's been a while. In fact, that sort of reminds me, I need to maybe look into that a little bit further. I've actually even seen fraudulent bond companies, right, where they look legit on the surface, but they never pay, right? So you could file on that broker's bond that's working in BFE, and you still end up with nothing, essentially, right? The whole thing is a scam, and it's probably their cousin or their neighbor or their nephew or whoever, right? They're all in on this together, right? So this, again, I'm going to get preachy for a second. Do your vetting, right? Do your due diligence. So before you take a load from a broker that's a month old, check to find out, right? Are they factoring? All of these kinds of things. Check them out, right? Are they utilizing a PO address, right? I'm not going to get too preachy on it, but do your due diligence, right, before working with anybody. Brokers do it to carriers, or at least they should. And likewise, carriers should be vetting their brokers, right, as well. And even if you have a direct customer, if you're a carrier, vet that shipper. Okay, I can't stress this enough because it's going to save you a lot of heartache, headache, and money in the long run, right? To do a little bit of vetting could save you exponentially in the long run. All right, I'm done with that. Fraud remains a top concern, with boroughs and member leaders emphasizing the need for stronger enforcement and collaboration. Freight fraud, including identity theft and double brokering, has surged 400% since 2022, costing the industry over $1 billion annually. Okay, another quick sidebar here. We use Highway, and you would be surprised at the number of carriers that I see in the system who are victims of identity theft, right? And again, a lot of these, if the FMCSA would crack down on overseas entities doing business here, right? Not utilizing a PO box, not operating out of their home, but they're actually over there or whatever, you know what I mean? Or some office space that's rented out. It's a cubicle that's 4 foot by 4 foot or something, let's say, with a desk and a phone that nobody answers, right? Nobody's ever there. They rent it out for $400 or $500 a month. Big whoop, right? Now they have a physical address. A little bit of legwork on the FMCSA's end would really, in my humble opinion, be the first step in combating a lot of this, right? But again, dealing with any government entity, I don't know. So the legislative priorities are putting principal place of businesses. TIA supports requiring brokers and carriers to have a verifiable business location, eliminating ghost companies operating out of PO boxes, right? Like I mentioned a moment ago. Multiple authority flags. This is one. The FMCSA system must identify suspicious patterns, like one individual owning dozens of MC numbers, right? I've seen that. You know, they had 15 different MCs, or, you know, they'll call about a load and they'll say, you know, hey, you know, I want to book this load. They didn't negotiate on the rate. Like usually there's some red flags, right? And you can kind of, if you've been doing this long enough, if you're a brand new broker, get ready, because you'll get this and they won't bat an eye at the rate, right? Even if you know that rate is low and it's probably going to be tough for you to move, right? Like maybe your customer, and I've got a few customers that are, and prospects have started to send me over rates, and they're literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars off the mark. Like that's just to the carrier, let alone leaving me a dollar, you know what I mean? So probably not going to end up working with them. And with the way things, you know, with the way the market is going, I think they're going to be in big trouble. You know, they're going to have to revise their rates a little bit, but they're still getting everybody to kind of beat each other up, which that shouldn't be happening at this point. But yeah, you know, they'll say, oh, well, you know, you know, here's my MC. You're on DNU. Why? Double brokering. You know, oh, well, okay, try this MC. You try that one. You know, flag for double brokering. They've got 15 different MCs. Why? Right? Because they're all double brokering through those. Okay. Accountability through penalties. Without enforcement of penalties, bad actors continue their schemes with impunity. Like I said, a majority of them are operating overseas. Right? You want to send the Marines in, the Army Rangers, what? Go hunt them down? CIA, you want what? They've got to stop them before they even get here, in my opinion. You know, so enforcement is a joke, in my opinion, right? Until they stop that, it's a joke. Burroughs pointed out the need for technology-driven solutions, citing examples like TIA's watchdog tool to help brokers vet carriers. Okay. So, yeah, just some things to kind of be aware of, potential changes. You know, while I do somewhat agree with the transparency, at the same time, a large part of me does not. You know, if you don't like the rate, don't take it. You know, like they use the example of, you know, retail. I just don't. And again, it could be a nightmare if you had, you know, tens of thousands of carriers coming in requesting records, right? It would just, I don't know. So that being said, I hope everybody's having a great day. Again, if you want to reach out to me, you have something to share, freightmasterresources@gmail.com. I hope everybody has a great day. I'm going to try to get on here again tomorrow. My day or my week so far has just been absolute chaos. So that's why I didn't get a video done the last 2 days. I've had impromptu meetings and drawn into meetings that I initially was not even supposed to be a part of, but I got called in. So that being said, I hope everybody's having a great day. Be kind to one another. And until next time, be good. All right.